Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We are here today with the folks from Macrium Software. We've got Ari, who is the Senior Pre-Sales Engineer for North America, and we've got Lindsay, who is the North and Latin American Channel Account Manager. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Scott. We appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. Always a pleasure talking with you, Ari, and Lindsay, I think this is the first time you and I have actually spoken, so it's very nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, wonderful to meet you, and thank you again for taking the time to have us on today.
Not a problem. So I've been using Macrium software for years. I was excited to do this demo, and hopefully I can pick up something new about the product today. So, but before I get started, I've got to ask, so what's the weather like where everybody's at?
Lindsay, go ahead.
Oh, it's wonderful here. We've got 60-mile-an-hour winds and about 40 degrees, so it's not too bad. We're out in Denver.
Denver, Colorado. Okay, I love Denver. Beautiful place. All right, Ari, how about you?
Oh, well, I'm in Winnipeg, Canada, and we're just expecting a blizzard tomorrow, so it is what it is.
You know, look, April, you basically better say the middle of April, and you're expecting a blizzard?
Mm-hmm.
How is that even possible?
You're gonna have to ask Mama Nature herself on that one, man.
All right, well, stay safe for sure. And looks like Jane Garrity just joined us as well. Welcome, Jane.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having us today.
No problem. And Jane, remind the viewers what is your position, and then I'm going to ask you where you're from and how the weather is.
Sure. I'm the Senior Channel Development Manager for Macrium.
All right.
So I'm responsible for investment with our partners to gain mind share, as well as help our partners increase their revenue using Macrium.
That's awesome.
I develop all those programs.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're glad you're joining us. Thanks so much. What's the weather like? Where are you from, and what's the weather like today?
I'm also in Denver with Lindsay.
Okay.
So it's a little cloudy today and a little cool, but I'm not complaining.
Awesome. Well, I am in South Carolina, and it is sunny and 82 degrees. In fact, I'm a little warm. I need to turn the air conditioner on. So
wow,
I am so jealous right now.
But see, you know, I don't know, most of the time, because it's so hot and humid in South Carolina. So, you know, most of the time, I don't know, I am praying for colder weather, cooler weather. So I'm not exactly excited about the oppressive heat here, but oh well. So, well, I am excited to dive into the product line for Macrium Software. Who wants to go first, and what can you tell me about Macrium?
I'm just going to dive right on into our demo. I've got three things I'm going to cover off today. The first is just going to be a quick overview of Macrium Site Manager, which is our single pane of glass to manage your network backups. Then I'm going to talk really briefly about kind of an idea concept, especially with all the news in the industry right now, about building your own appliance using Macrium. Okay. And then finally, I'd like to just do a quick chat, since I spent 15 years running my own IT business that I've recently sold. I spent 15 years in this, well, 35 years in the industry, but 15 years running my own. Site Manager and Macrium gives partners a huge opportunity to bring in some extra revenue from services. And at the end of the day, really, it's all about how you position things and how you can make money. So I want to talk about monetizing services around Site Manager and how that could be a fit for you.
Wonderful. Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And I'm going to bring up our Site Manager pane of glass. So here it is. This is the Site Manager dashboard. And the wonderful thing about Site Manager is that we as a company said, hey, we have an idea about what we want the dashboard to look like. But you, as the person who's using it, may have a different idea. So the first thing is we give you the ability to edit the dashboard, arrange it in the way that makes the most sense to you. We're going to give you the tools, but we're not so, arrogant to come back and say, hey, this is the way that it should look good. and this is how we want you to use it. We give you the ability to customize things and do things the way that it works for you. So if you don't like certain features of the dashboard, pull them off the page. If you know you can drill into other places to get to it, you can do that. You can move things around, just drag and drop and change things the way that you want to. And if you like it, save it. And if you don't, discard it and go back to the regular good old dashboard. Nice thing is that when you log into Site Manager, you're logging in with your domain credentials or your administrative credentials. And if you have multiple domain admins and multiple administrators, every person has their own dashboard. So if you like it one way and Joe likes it another way and Jane likes it another way, everybody gets the opportunity to set it up the way that they see fit. What's great about the dashboard is that we've kind of incorporated some standard colors in here. We've got green for good, red for bad, orange or yellow, depending on what you see when you look at it, is kind of a caution or warning. Everything is clickable. So if you want to find out what's going on with your backup, let's say you have some failed backups, you want to find out what's going on, all you need to do is just click on it. It's going to drill and it's going to find all the information. You can sort by date, make it the most current. So the last failure was February the 16th. And what happened? The backup was aborted. Again, in red, draws your attention to it really quickly. Backup was aborted, unable to read from disk. The device is not ready. That just simply means I didn't start up the NAS. And of course, I had to do that to generate an error because our product, I won't say our product runs error-free all the time, but 99% of the time, it's pretty darn good there.
You had to make it mess up.
I had to make it mess up. I did. So from a quick glance, you can see what's going on. If there's a current backup running, you'll see in an activity, the last 24 hours, what's happened is in your notifications. You can get a quick look at your disk repositories or multiple repositories. You can drop down and kind of scroll through them, see what you have for space and use space free. And then you can see what your forecast is for the next 24 hours. From here, you can also see how many computers are connected and what's not connected. If there's something that's offline, it's going to show up in yellow again. You can click on it and go straight into it, find out and get to the heart of the matter quickly, all from the dashboard. We want to minimize the amount of time you spend managing so that you have time to do the other tasks that are important in your day.
I really like the fact that everything is clickable in the dashboard, so you can instantly drill down to what you need. That's very nice.
Yes, sir. So Site Manager is configured in 5 steps. The first 4 of them are done under the site configuration. We start with computers, so we get the who, we get the what, we get the when, we get the where. Okay. That's the basic configuration. And the last step is to just make it all come together. So when we start with computers, we go to add. We have a number of different ways that we can add computers. If you're on a domain, an Active Directory domain, this makes life easy. You just add domains, you just add computers from the domain. You go in, you tell it what forest you want to use, you tell it what OU you want to use, you click on it, you add your computers, you click next, and it pulls them in. Once the computers are in, you select all the computers, and then you click on Install Agent. Because you're running with domain administrator privileges when you log into this, you're going to pass those privileges on to the installation. And that way you don't have to run around and touch every single computer on your network. You can just push this out, push the agents out. Really, really simple. If you're not on a domain, that's okay. You can add computers manually, either by NetBIOS or by a DNS name or by IP address. So if you're on if you're just in a simple work group where you're not running an Active Directory domain, no problem. We support that too. It'll ask you for administrator credentials for installation when you're ready to go, and you go through the same process. Once they're in the panel, click install, and away you go. So really simple to add computers. The other thing that we've incorporated recently is tags. So if you're in an environment that has a lot of computers, has a lot of different departments, it's going to pull some basic information from WMI, but at the end of the day, it might not be the information you're looking for. So let's say you wanted to add the sales team computers. So you can add a tag for sales, and then you wanted to add admin computers. You wanted to add accounting, right? So you can add all these tags in, and then when you go into here, you can add those tags under here so that you can create groups just by using those tags rather than having to search for computer names or other things manually. So that's computers. Once you've set up your computers, then you're into definitions. To create a definition, creating a definition is easy. what you're going to do, since we're on the what, is we're going to give it a name, and we're either going to select it by computers or by those tags that we just talked about. Once you've selected the computers, you're onto your next screen. Again, we give you the tools. We don't tell you how. We tell you, here's what you're capable of, and you define what that means to you. So if you don't put in any rules at all, if you don't put in any rules at all, what it's going to do is it's going to come up and it's going to tell you, hey, every disk we find on every computer is going to get backed up in this definition list. That's great. And when you're working with computers, say, that have, you know, a main disk and then they have an external hard drive connected to them, like a USB stick or something, or even a USB disk, you may not want to back up that USB disk, right? You may just want to back up the main disk that has, you know, the data, the computer, the data and the OS on it. So if we add in a simple rule, adding disks that contain system partitions, when we check those matching partitions again, now it excludes anything that is an external drive, and it's only looking for anything that has a C partition on it. So it'll back up the entire disk that has that C partition. And all of these rules are mix and match. So there are include and exclude rules. You mix and match and get it defined down to the granular level that you need in order for that to work. And that is the backup definition side of things. So the last screen is options, and this is where you tell it about encryption and what kind of compression level you want. So with encryption, you either have an 8-character, 16-character, or 32-character password at minimum. Whatever you set for that password, it's important that you record that password and store it safely somewhere. If you lose that password, you lose the ability to get your backup. You lose the ability to get the data from your backup.
Macrium can't help in that situation.
We can't help you. This is your password, your encryption, your data. We're giving you the means, but you need to do some protection yourself as well. Verification, and I want to be clear about verification, since everybody seems to have a verify feature. This is not I can pull data out of this verification. Everybody who uses this verification feature is giving you the ability to just check that, make sure that the amount of data sent is the amount of data that was received. It's just an MD checksum, a CRC, right? It's just making sure that, you know, A equals A equals A, B equals B, B equals B. It doesn't mean that you can pull data out of it. So I just want to say that, you know, it doesn't matter whose software you're using for backup, and I hope you're doing some kind of backup. A verification is still an important part of your backup process, but that verification means taking a potential backup, pulling data out of it, ensuring that that data is actually there that you need, and then making sure that that potential data is now, or that potential backup is now a backup. Finally, under CPU priority and bandwidth, so we give you a few more options to play with. Just because we're that kind of company, we kind of try and figure out how are people going to use this, and then we take that a little bit further and go a little more granular. So sometimes people have a backup window, which is great, and if you do, fantastic, set it to a high CPU priority, because the only thing running during that backup window is backup. Some people need to be using their computers when the backup is running, and if you have a high CPU priority set, it's going to slow things down and bog things down in your computer. We don't want that. So if you set it to below normal CPU priority, the user's barely going to notice that there's a backup being run, and you'll be able to continue on and doing the work during your day. But because we're doing a volume shadow service VSS backup, you know, it's not affecting any open files at that point.
But I would assume the lower, like below normal, that would probably take a little longer to actually complete, right? It's kind of a trade-off.
Yep, correct. Okay. So we give you the ability to do a backup while computers in use, but you might want to, you know, change the CPU priority. And we also give you the ability to limit the bandwidth. So we can go anywhere from 1 megabit per second up to 20 gigabits per second, depending on your throughput. So if you have a gigabit link and your backup's running, but you're using a lot of network intensive applications, or even web intensive applications where your bandwidth is getting, you know, eaten up real fast, we want to give you the ability to throttle the amount of bandwidth as well. So you have all of these capabilities within your definition set.
Once you said that'll go to 20 gigs a second?
Yeah, we'll let you go all the way up to 20 gigs a second if you want.
That's a huge pipe size. Oh.
Well, if you're running a Synology NAS that has a pair of 10 gigabit NICs in it that are teamed, you got 20 gigs. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. So we give you the ability to get up there. Once you've done your definitions, we've done the who, we've done the what, now we're doing the when. So a few different ideas in mind, but we'll do one from scratch, right? The default is grandfather, father, son. For most people who are doing server backups, grandfather, father, son is a full backup on the first Monday, differential backups on each subsequent Monday of the month, and incremental backups for the rest. How do you set that up with triggers? So we're going to do a full backup monthly on the first Monday of every month. We're going to start it at 10 p.m. So the first backup, the full backup of the first Monday of every month will start at 10 p.m. We're going to set up the differentials. We're going to do those weekly on Mondays, and we're going to do those at 10 p.m. as well. So now we have differentials, we've got fulls, and then the last thing to set up is incrementals. And we're going to do incrementals on Monday. Well, we don't need to do Monday, so we're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're going to do incrementals, and we're going to start those at 10 o'clock as well. Boom. We now have our schedule set. We're ready to roll. How long do we want to keep backups for? We're not going to tell you how long you can keep the backups for. If you want to keep a gazillion full backups, keep a gazillion full backups. If you have the space for it, bless you, keep it up. If you don't have the space for it, set it to, whatever is going to work for you and for your industry or for your best practices so that you have the protection that you need.
Sure.
You notice that we have 3 triggers. So we have 3 different rule sets that we're going to keep. So what are we going to do? We're going to keep a year's worth of full backups. We're going to keep 4 differential backups and 8 incrementals. And just like grandfather, father, son, what this means is I can go back to any point in time from a backup for the last 2 weeks for any day. I can go back to any Monday within the last 4 weeks, and I can go back to any start of the month within the last 12.
Very nice.
Or whatever you decide to set it. If you set the run the purge before backup, it's just going to make sure that you're always running the right amount of files. You're never worrying about how many extra files you're keeping, so it manages your space more effectively. If you're doing a desktop backup, that's a little different. So with a desktop backup, you might not need to do all of that granularity. You might just want to work with a single full backup at the start of the month, and you might want to have, 4 weeks of backups, of incremental backups. But what happens at the end of that? Well, it's going to generate a new backup, so we really don't need to do anything. What if we want a little bit more space conservation, and maybe we just want to be able to roll back within a week? We just want to protect the workstations within a week and be able to roll back any day. Well, that's great, but we're only doing a full backup once a month. So what happens? What we do is we say, we're going to do that full backup once a month. We're going to keep those 5 incremental backups. So those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday backups. But on the next Monday, what happens? We create a synthetic full backup if possible. So what happens is that Monday backup from the previous week, that gets rolled into the full backup so that you're only ever managing 5 incrementals and the 1 full backup.
Okay.
So we're being more space conscious, more space conservative, but still giving you the ability to back up those workstations and have some kind of effective strategy. Again, whatever your space dictates, you decide. If you want to keep those full backups for a year, set it to 12 backups.
Gotcha.
And what it's going to do is the current month, it's just going to keep rolling those incrementals into that full backup until the end of the month. Once you've done that, your final options are what to do when you encounter offline computers, because computers aren't always online. Do you want to fail them or defer it until it comes online? If you defer it until it comes online, it's going to do the most senior backup. So if you missed a full backup, an incremental backup, and a differential, it's going to do a full. Then it's going to run a differential, and it's going to say, I have a full backup, there's no changes, skip. Then it's going to run an incremental, it's going to say, I already have a full backup dated for today, I don't need to do this, skip. So when you defer, it's intelligent enough of an engine to let you kind of get past that. What do you want to do when backups fail? Because sometimes it happens. Do you want to retry backups? How many times do you want to retry? What interval do you want to leave between it? And then you know how sometimes when you're in the middle of doing some work and you get that agent, that little notification that pops up in that bottom right corner of your window, all right, takes your focus away. You can disable that agent notification right here. Just simply hit the check mark so that people just work and they're not disrupted when things are happening that way.
Very nice.
So now we've covered the who, we've covered the what, we've covered the when. This is where things get really cool. A lot of our competitors want to lock you into their storage. They want you to buy their storage. They want you to have their storage set with them. They control your storage. You're locked in. And if you decide to go somewhere, you got to pull all of that data down somewhere and then import it or move it somewhere else, if it even works with other programs. Well, so here with ours, what we do is we give you the ability to either back up to a NAS or a network share. We give you the ability to back up to a local USB drive that's attached to the computer. Or hey, if you want, you can go to your own Azure cloud account, or you can go to your own Amazon AWS storage gateway account and back up there. What's even cooler is that we have options for synchronization as well. So if you want to back up to a local NAS, then you can synchronize to an offsite repository like Wasabi, for example. We have built an integration for Wasabi and Backblaze. So if you want to use either of those, hey, no problem. It's there. If you want to use just an AWS S3 gateway, fine, no problem. The ability's there. If you want to use an SFTP server, no problem. The ability's there. We give you all kinds of options in which to have cloud storage that you control versus we control. This is about you, not us. And that's the mentality of our company. We want to enable you to be successful. We don't need you to be married to us for you to be successful.
No, I love it. It's very, very user-friendly. You've got a ton of options to really work with anybody who needs to configure Macrium. I love it. Very nice.
Thank you, Scott. So here, we're in our last step. We're into our scheduled activity. All we're going to do at this point is we're going to schedule an activity. We're going to schedule a backup. We are going to pick the repository that we are going to back it up to. We are going to pick, there we go. We are going to pick the definition that we want to use. We are going to pick the schedule that we want to have for that definition. And then we click finish. And then what it does is it creates your definition dash your schedule, your definition dash your schedule, so that you can see what's going on at any point in time. You know exactly what's happening. And then you get a 30-day view of what's going on right here in the window. And by just by looking at the icons, you can tell that this is an incremental backup. You can tell that this is a full backup. So just by the icons, you know exactly what's happening and when it's going to happen. Now, I said that you can schedule a synchronization, right? So we have a NAS set up, which is great, but we want to schedule a synchronization, no problem. What NAS, what repository do we want to use to synchronize? Where do we want to send it? Do we want an SFTP server? Do we want a local path? Do we want an Amazon S3 gateway? Do we want a Windows network share? We want an Amazon S3 gateway. Hey, no problem. There's Backblaze and Wasabi. All you do is you put your bucket and your access and secret key in. Go to Wasabi. There's documentation right on Wasabi's website. Macrium has documentation as well on how to configure it. It's about 8 steps. And if you follow it step by step, it's really easy to do. And then once it's done, it's done. You just tell it when you want the synchronization schedule to run, and it runs. So if you synchronize an offsite backup once a week, everything that's in your repository gets synchronized to the cloud. So if your repository walks away or dies, you have the information in the cloud. If something happens to your repository, you have the cloud. We give you options. It's all about options and how you want to do things. And that, in a nutshell, is Site Manager. That's the configuration. That's how easy it is to use. That's how easy it is to set up. You do it a few times and it becomes second nature to you. So what are ways to use Site Manager? Well, if you build an appliance with Site Manager, you can do it on a Windows 10 license. You don't need to install server. I run it as a VM. I give it a single virtual CPU, and I I'm running it on a server OS because I'm using a data center license, so I get unlimited licenses that way. But you can run it on a Windows 10 Pro license or Windows 11 Pro license if you want. So if you partner up with somebody who's got some great hardware, you want to slap a few spinner drives in there because it's storage. You don't need high performance unless you really want high performance. But you can throw a few spinner drives in there in a RAID 5 array, create your own appliance, and drop a turnkey solution at a customer site with Site Manager ready to go and configured, and you're adding in some extra revenue dollars for you in hardware, in service, and time. The other thing that you can do as well is monetizing the services around Site Manager. So when I was running my company, one of the things that I would do for customers is I would sit down and I would do some consulting with them, and we would spend some time talking about how they wanted to do their backup, what's important to them, what data do they need, what's the compliance in their industry, what's the best practices for their industry, how long do they need to keep their data for. And we'd figure out all of this stuff, and we'd sit down and we'd configure a custom config for them. All of that time is consulting time. So there's consulting revenues there. You're going in and you're doing the Site Manager setup. What I do is I'd sell them a 10-hour block of time. So I would take 2 or 3 hours for consulting. I'd take an hour or two for the configuration. And then for the next couple of months, I would come back and spend an hour or two doing an actual backup data verification, grab their backup files, mount their backup files, pull data out of their backup files, show them that here's your data so that they could have some peace of mind. And then after I've done that a couple of times, I'd offer them that service on either a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on the kind of customer that they were and depending on their risk tolerance, and give them an opportunity to have that service repeated every month or every quarter and come in, spend a couple of hours going through the data and doing that verification. So you take that away from them so that they don't have to worry about it. And they just know that you're giving them the reports and the peace of mind that they need.
You know, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a very valid, good point. And it's a good way to generate some extra revenue for the MSP or IT service provider.
When I sold Macrium Site Manager to customers, on average, I would tack on anywhere between $600 to $1,200 in extra services just by selling Site Manager.
Nice.
And then again, and then you get those repeat opportunities. So there you have it, Scott. I mean, that's Site Manager, like I said, in a nutshell. I wanted to do a quick preview of it, and I figured maybe we'd open up some questions and see what people got.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking to see if we had any questions. Yes. Mitch Krantz says, "I love Macrium. Used to be an Acronis devotee, but switched to Macrium about 6 years ago. Never looked back." So that's awesome. I have used Macrium for a long time as well, but I've never used Site Manager. And Ari, you have opened up my eyes today to a whole new realm of service offerings that, quite frankly, I didn't even know Macrium offered. So that's excellent. Excellent.
Since we cater to a bunch of MSPs and we still have a little bit of time, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let me preface this by saying this wasn't rehearsed or planned in any way, shape, or form. So I apologize in advance if this goes a little off the rails here, but let's do this. So Macrium does have an MSP offering. We have lots of MSPs in ITBOG. We love them all. Thank you for doing what you do. We appreciate you. We do have an MSP offering where Macrium has a metered key that can be installed in Site Manager, and that metered key gives you an unlimited number of workstations and an unlimited number of servers, and every month that gets reported back to the DISTI. The DISTI says, here's your bill for the month, and then you bill your clients based on their usage. The question that people have is, how do I manage all of these Site Manager installations? Well, that's easy. So we have a product called Multi-Site Manager, which is really designed for our MSPs and for our clients who have multiple Site Manager installations. When you log into it, and yes, we do support two-factor authentication, and you should be using it, because we all know the dangers of not using two-factor authentication these days. I'm just going to go ahead and type in that 2FA key. So multi-site manager is site manager for site manager. So we get that single pane of glass again, but what we have is we have all of our sites, all of our site manager sites listed in this window here, where we can just go in and view that site manager, give it a few seconds to establish a remote connection to that site manager installation. And then there we are, we're looking at
that pulls a little more
site manager.
So basically on that previous screen, you would see a list of all your clients running site manager.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
So you can go in and manage all of your client site manager sites remotely, manage their metered keys, manage all of that, know exactly how many they have in use. And at any point in time, you can go to the partner portal and grab that information as well, so you know what to bill them for the month. We try to make this as easy as possible. And hey, just because we know that there's been some interesting news lately in the industry, we're not locking you into any contracts. We're not locking you into any terms. We want you to do business with us because you want to do business with us. We don't want you to do business with us because a piece of paper says that you have to.
So what are the terms?
What would you like them to be?
I mean, I just want them to, I just want them to be industry standard, I guess. That would be very fair.
What's industry standard these days?
I don't know, but I personally don't like signing contracts over a year.
No problem. We don't want you to sign a contract over a month.
Okay.
You put a metered key in and you use the metered key, you're getting billed for a month. You decide to stop using the metered key in a month, you don't get a bill for the metered key after that.
That's awesome. So it's really no contracts, in all honesty. You use a month, you pay for a month. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And if you use 36 months, and you pay for 36 months.
Yes, sir. and we're not asking you for minimums. We're not telling you you have to have 500 endpoints to protect. If you have one endpoint to protect, you can use a metered key and charge for that one endpoint. The rates are really, really competitive. I mean, we looked at a couple of different competitors, and we were a fifth of the price of one of them and less than half the price on most of them. So when you take a look at our pricing and that you would all go through Lindsay, she would be your channel account manager and get you set up and get you registered for that. When you take a look at that, and you consider, say, well, other people are doing this into the cloud. Yeah, we can do that too. Back up to a NAS, get your service revenues in there, do the storage synchronization to Wasabi for, what is it, Scott, like $6 per terabyte per month?
I think somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's ridiculously inexpensive, and it's really good. It's really good hot storage. There's no ingress or egress fees, so you're getting a really good deal with Wasabi for storage. There you got cloud storage, you've got local storage, you've got synchronization, you've got a metered key in place, so you're billing them as they use it, what they use it for. You never have to worry about oh, I need a key right away and I need to get this installed now. It's already there. You can go in and generate the metered key yourself for each client, and you just plug it into licensing. And this whole Macrium multi-site is all done through API. We're not reducing a security footprint. We're not poking holes in firewalls. It's an API key that lets the two sites talk to each other and recognize that there's a trust relationship between them.
Awesome. So I have a question. You showed me this beautiful demo here today of Macrium, but what about when there is a problem on a client's machine and you need to restore? Let's say you have to do a bare metal restore. What would that process look like?
So bare metal restore is really easy to work with.
Okay.
So firstly, when you're using Site Manager, you can do a remote restore if the machine is still alive and connected. All you do is you just simply tell it, hey, I want to restore this machine. I want to use this backup. I want this disk. I want these options selected. You click next, you click finish, and it starts to restore. So, from an online perspective, it's really easy. But yes, sometimes things happen where you have to do a bare metal restore. And then we have something called Rescue Media. So what Rescue Media is, and most people are familiar with Macrium at some point in their lives, they've probably used the free version of it, little USB stick that you boot from. In my case, I get a little more propeller hat oriented, and I tend to use I tend to use a Pixie server and push the bootwim file out that way, but a USB stick works. You can create specific agent rescue media. So if you're only running a few computers and they're all different, what the agent rescue media will do is it'll actually talk directly to the machine, pull the drivers from the machine, and make sure that when you create the ISO, all those drivers are incorporated so that when you do a bare metal restore to the same platform, you can just simply plug in that stick, boot up, pull your information from wherever it is, whether it's NAS or whether it's cloud, and then do the restore. But we also give you the ability to do generic and rescue media. Generic will let you pick either Windows 10, Windows PE 10 or Windows PE 11 if you're using modern hardware. If you're using older hardware, we support PE 4 as well. So, I mean, we go all the way back to Windows XP Service Pack 3 if you need to back up machines. Our software is compatible all the way back to that. But the generic rescue media will give you an opportunity to load the standard Windows PE drivers so that if you're working with more of a generic mess of machines, you got a pretty good driver set to work with. And unless there's something really funky, then you're going to be okay. And then the universal rescue media is kind of like the generic, except we put it all together, all versions of PE into one stick. Doesn't matter what you use. You just take that stick, plug it into a computer, and go. And then you boot.
Nice.
So really, really simple that way.
All right. So I want to jump back a minute because Mitch Krantz asked another question. And this is really to you, Ari. How do you approach the conversation about needing to follow up and double check that the product is actually working?
That's a good question, Mitch. Thank you for asking it. So really, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of IT people running around out there telling business owners that their stuff is being backed up. And it probably is, and it's probably okay. But depending on your level of risk tolerance and depending on your level of comfort, might not be the answer that you're looking for. If it was me, I want to know that I have a backup that I can recover from if something goes sideways. So for me,
it's that peace of mind, that insurance policy.
That's exactly it. So for me, the conversation is, hey, business owner, do you have a backup? Yes. Have you tested it? Well, why do I need to test it? It's a backup. No, it's only a potential backup until you've tested it. A potential backup means that it's likely recoverable. Are you okay with likely being able to restore your information, or do you want to be able to restore it? Do you want to know, or do you want to guess? When it comes to something like that, I want to know. So here's what I propose. We take your potential backups once a month or once a quarter. I come back and I sit down and I go through, you pick some random days, we pull that backup up, we mount it, we look inside of it, we make sure that the data in it is the data that you're expecting to be in it, and then we pull data out of it to make sure that it's recoverable. And once we know that we can do that, then we know that we have a backup. So it's no longer a potential backup, it's a backup. Doesn't matter whose software you're using for that, that should be a standard practice for anybody who's in the backup game. You need to make sure. And while some of our competitors' products like to bring up a snapshot of the login screen, a snapshot of the login screen doesn't mean that your backup's going to boot. How many times have you been at a login screen, typed in your username and password, blue screened, and gone into a reboot cycle?
That's right.
So it's nice that it's there. It's a step closer to being a verified backup, an actual backup, but it's still a potential backup until you've actually verified it. So backup verification should be part of the process. Absolutely. Did that answer your question, Mitch?
I think it did. So how do you line item that on the invoice to the client? What's your line item name?
It's a service item.
Okay, just a standard service item.
Just a standard service item. Yep.
Backup verification. Yeah, backup verification. There you go. Okay. Yep.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, how big of a market does MSPs? How big of a market are MSPs for Macrium?
Jane, you want to tackle that one? Your mic is muted. There you go.
Thank you. Scott, can you please repeat the question so I understand it correctly?
Yeah. So out of all of the clients that Macrium supports and services, how many of those are MSPs? What's the market share for MSPs?
So right now, I will say the majority of what we have going through the channel is through resellers.
Okay.
But we do have a really good base of MSPs. I don't know the exact percentage,
Sure.
but I can find out and let you know. But from a balance perspective, we do have more resellers than we do MSPs. We're going to be really heavily investing this year into our MSP clients, as well as garnering more MSPs into our business portfolio. So stay tuned for more to come later on in the year and second half, when we'll be really making that push to really work with our MSPs, understand what we do well and what we don't do well, so that we can make it better for our MSPs.
Well, let us know how we can help. We love when companies go into the MSP realm. So it's very nice. We're very supportive.
Great. Will do. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Ari, what is the best way for an MSP who is watching this, or an IT service provider that wants to get involved with Macrium? What is the best way that they can get in touch with your team?
Well, hey, there's a fantastic question and another opportunity for a slide that the amazing Lindsay's put together. So for Lindsay, she's our channel account manager. She is the awesomest person that you're going to talk to in this group. She'll get you set up, get you registered, walk you through the process, direct you to one of our distributors. And I'm the guy that's going to help you close the business. If you have a business opportunity where you need some help or you need a demo, I'm the one who's going to come in. I'm going to do the demo for you and help you close that business. And Lindsay's going to be the most awesome person support on that side of things for getting you all set up and registered.
That is excellent. Well, is there anything else you want to share with the audience about Macrium?
Lindsay, you got the floor.
Sure. I do like to share that we do offer trial licenses. So if you're thinking about Macrium, you're on the fence, we're here to help. So please email me and I'd be happy to extend that out for you. We can do trials of pretty much any of our solutions. Something I think Ari didn't necessarily mention is the site manager and multi-site solutions are actually free. So we're here to enable you to do your business and how you need to do your business. So we're not going to nickel and dime you for every single thing that you need to operate as efficiently as possible. So although you can sell services on those items do not cost anything to you once you buy your licenses.
Awesome. I love that. That is just Macrium enabling their partners to be better at what they do.
Yes,
That's
sir.
our goal.
That is awesome. And no contracts.
No contract.
Month to month.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and add to Lindsay's, talking about registering MSP partners. There's no cost. It's free. You can get into our portal, get all the information that you need, schedule demos and whatnot at no cost. All you have to do is just register. So I just wanted to drop that in there too.
Awesome. Ari, Mitch did say, good answer. He said, I know what I used to say, but I wanted to hear what you had to say. So he liked your answer about that as well. But
thank you, Mitch.
That's great. Well, listen, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to do this this event with us today. We are proud to, have Macrium in our community and sponsoring us. And, I'm thankful for the opportunity that everyone gave us today. So without further ado, I will tip my hat off to everyone, say thank you, and hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Take care.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.